Hi, my name is Brent Tuttle, and last year I was watching a show on the Discovery Channel called Bering Sea Gold, and there were guys that were underwater, right under their boats, literally sucking gold off the bottom of the ocean there in Nome, Alaska. And some of those guys, like the Christine Rose here, were making millions of dollars a year. So I was getting a little fat and happy. I hadn't done much with my life up to that point, and I'm like, I want to go do this. I had even been involved in buying and selling gold. I created my own gold store and had it for a while. So I left my beautiful big house and my beautiful wife and took off towards Seattle. Meanwhile, I had found a claim holder up there that gave me access in a 5-year contract to 320 acres right outside of Nome. So I got on a plane and I took off and I started looking at boats. I went up and down the coast of Seattle and looked, the Portland area and looked, everywhere in between and looked. And finally I ended up finding this old steel tugboat. The reason why I liked it is because it had this nice flat back area where we could put an excavator. Or better yet, I had seen backhoes like this, and I thought, why wouldn't I just put the arm on there instead of all of the weight of the backhoe? So I talked to the tugboat company owner. His name was Lee Hendren, a wonderful man. When I told him that I was going to go to Nome, put a dredge on the back of the boat, he was so excited. He's like, hey, I want to participate in this. I want to be involved. And so he let me use every part of his company and all his facilities. The only problem we had was, he says, the boat does not have a good motor in it. And it is a huge motor. It's 17 tons. It was 3 feet taller than I was when I was standing in the engine room. So, anyway, I went home and got my backhoe. Okay, we made it to the dock. We're dropping the backhoe off right here in front of Lee's crane. The old truck made it. This is Lee's tugboat company. As you can see, he's got a bunch of different boats and all kinds of stuff. All the scrap metal in the world we could use. And then there is the Captain Hendren. That's the boat that's going to go to Nome. There's the back. As you can see, it's solid steel. I think the backhoe will go on there. He's already removed the tug winch, and there's our deck inside. What we had to do was get started on the roof. We're going to have to cut the steel roof off, lift it up with a crane, and then we take the engine out, and we're going to float the tug down the river to a scrap yard in order to get rid of it. So we started cutting and grinding. That's me and my goggles. My son was with me. He was a certified welder and helped me grind out that engine. And it took us about a week to get ready. Alright, we're taking the stack off to Captain Hendren. That was an all-night job cutting that loose. You can see how big that sucker is. My son's standing down there in the corner. The next step is they needed to float us down the river. There's Lee pushing us with his tug. We're coming under the big cranes. And then you can see the big pile of scrap crap. And then there's Schnitzer's set of cranes, and they're about to take our engine out. It has been one royal pain in the ass getting that sucker ready. The bolts are huge, and we had to cut and grind and tear and turn and twist, but looks like today is the day. Alright, we're getting that big sucker out of here. Moving out. Whoa, whoa, whoa! If that thing fell right now, it would go straight through the boat. So far, it's looking pretty good. No, that's a ton of weight. There she goes. Thank goodness. All right, she's gone. Well, during the weeks while we were cutting the old engine out, I found a brand new or like new 16 V92, and so it was time to clean up the boat and then stick the engine back in.
There you go, darker.
I'll hold it. Okay, well, this is a typical day at Lee's boatyard. Yeah, we just got through cleaning the bilge. And it was really nasty. Well, now that we had the big engine out and the engine room was relatively clean, it was time to start thinking about the other systems. So we sent the generators out for testing. And then got the generators put back into the boat and started wiring it back up. Well, at the moment, but the engine appears to be just a little bit too high in the front. We're actually right here working on the alignment, trying to get the transmission to hook up to the propeller shaft that you can see right there. And hopefully we'll have this baby tightened up. Finally, after about 8 weeks of working 7 days a week, 18-hour days, and spending about $70,000, I had all of our gold gear together. We had our pumps, our sluices, we had the electronics for the boat, we fixed the doors and things on the boat, and we've got the engine running. Everything's perfect. So it was time to take off. Okay, so now it was time to leave Portland, and we went down the Columbia River, across the bar, and we went up to Bellevue, Washington, where they pulled out our boat in less than 12 hours. We had lifted the boat up, we painted it, scraped it, and then they had us back in the water. Well, anyway, you can see all of our gear's on there, and we're ready to take off. So we took off from Bellevue, and we went up the coast through the inside passage. And this is a picture of us. A buoy caught us going by that had the camera. This is out on the internet. And we went up through Canada, back into Alaska there, back into the States. And right there, we ended up almost capsizing. We caught our first big storm, and our rudder went out. But we survived that, and we took off again. We went around the Aleutian Islands there, or through at Falls Pass, and then went across Bristol Bay. The last 36 hours, right before we got to Nome, we got forced by a 45-mile-an-hour gale into these mud flats, and we thought we were going to be stuck there. And again, there are no this isn't a highway. There's nobody coming by to look for you or help you. But finally, we got out of there and headed up towards Nome. We were about 300 miles south of Nome, and the weather cleared up. It was a beautiful trip the rest of the way until we got to Nome. There's our boat, and there's the water we're supposed to be dredging in. After 2.5 weeks of this, I knew I was in trouble. I had taken every nickel that we had. I'd borrowed all the money that I could, and I hadn't done a thing. My wife, my business partner, everyone was saying, "Hey, when are you going to send the gold home?" The last crew member and I put our gear together. First chance we got, we went out, and things just weren't quite right. We went out 2 or 3 times after making adjustments, and we still couldn't make it work. Finally, my last crew member quit. I didn't have any money to pay him, and he left me there with this big old boat and a lot of equipment that just wouldn't work right. I had never felt this down before in my life. I just sit there and watched it rain. It was 27 degrees at night. I didn't have any heat, no running water, and I just felt sorry for myself. I had never been in this place before. Finally, John Mihalik from the Discovery Channel stopped by, and he asked me why I even came to Nome. And I said, well, John, look, I saw the show. I was feeling dumpy and down, and I needed to make some money, and I thought this would be a good way to do it, and I really wanted to dive. And he says, well, hey, show up tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, and we'll go out on my boat. So we took his dredge out to my claim. You can see it. It's about 1/4 of a mile offshore, about 1.5 miles from the harbor, and we were getting the gold. Every hour we were getting anywhere from 1/4 of an ounce to 1/2 ounce an hour. The only problem is we were right here at the end of the season, and I only got about a week's worth of diving in. Now at the end of the season, the harbor made you take your boat out because of boats like this that had frozen in before, and they'd messed up the harbor. So they made us take our boats completely out of the harbor. I didn't have any money. I didn't know what to do, but I did find this place about 100 miles south of Nome, and so I sold off the equipment, my mining equipment, to get fuel, to pay for a guy to go with me, and to get antifreeze and the things to board up the windows and whatever, and we took off. When we got over to the other side, it was raining, it was blowing, and we ended up, even though my GPS was saying we were in 20 feet of water, we ended up running into some shallow ground. We had to abandon the boat and get off. Luckily, we were rescued and without much incident, but that was the end of my season. As you can see from my picture, I'm a hell of a lot older looking than I was when I left, but I do plan on going back.